Howdy, everybody. Sure good to see everybody. I'm just thrilled at the incredible group we have here. I'm just amazed.
Hey, Jenny.
Devin.
Hey.
Hey, how are you?
Thank you all for coming today. Golly. I look around this room and I'm just like, holy cow. I get to be in a room with these people, these amazing, incredible people. All of you are so wise and kind and good. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Let me start off.
I must be in the wrong room then.
Kevin, I tell you, you're something else. But you know, just everybody in this room is someone that we're all proud to know. I think most of you know each other, but the regulars are getting to know each other too. But my gosh, this is just a phenomenal group. Let me just start with a quick reminder of our recording rules before I turn the recording on. We record this for the benefit of those who are unable to attend. And I'm going to continue this for a while, but I have to tell you, not many people are watching the video. Primarily, it's me going back to remind myself who volunteered to do what. We'll continue the practice this month and maybe for another month or two, and then we may want to revisit that practice. But the idea of recording is just for the benefit of those who can't attend. The idea is kind of our rule that we established at the outset was that if you wanted to say something off the record, I would pause the recording. And the reason that might come up is someone might feel uncomfortable for whatever reason being recorded offering a criticism of one of the companies we're considering. And I want to be sensitive to that, whatever might motivate that concern. Obviously, I don't think any one of you come to this process with it in a spirit of rancor or wanting to embarrass anyone. But nonetheless, if we're going to evaluate impact and financial returns objectively, we may have to be thoughtful at times. And so anyway, that's our rule. So I'm going to turn the recording. Oh, the recording has started. I guess you saw that, and I didn't even notice that we had. It doesn't tell me. I changed the settings so that it would do it automatically so that if I wouldn't forget. But feel free to tell me or ask me to pause that. Again, thank you all for being here. Let me just remind you all about SuperCrowd 22. This is going to be a great event. And it's, I just couldn't be more excited. Several of you are on the program. Chris is on the program. He's here. Jenny's on the program. She's here. Kevin, who is here, did he disappear? Or have I just, oh, there's Kevin. Kevin is on the program as well. This is really going to be an incredible event. I just really want to encourage all of you to check it out, supercrowd22.com. And if you don't have the discount codes, ping me. I'll get you the discount code so you can be a part of this. All righty, let's jump to introductions. I'm going to try not to use a timer, but let me ask for this practice today. If you would give your name, your affiliation, your location, and then one word to express who you are. So 4 things: your name, affiliation, location, and one other word. And we'll just go around the room quickly. Chris, could we start with you?
No, just kidding. Chris Miller with the National Coalition for Community Capital. I am physically in Southern Michigan, and one word, committed.
Fiona.
I'm Fiona Butt. I'm director of the St. David's Marist Foundation. I'm in Johannesburg, South Africa. And one word I think is curious.
Fantastic. Layla.
Hello, Layla Roberts. Two roles, Director of the North Coast Small Business Development Center and board member with the Solidarity Economy Organization, Cooperation Humboldt. We are in far rural coastal Northwestern California. One word, infiltrator. And I can explain, but I won't.
Thank you so much. Jenny, do you want to go next?
Sure. I'm Jenny Casson with the Casson Group, Crowdfund Main Street and Opportunity Main Street and Angels of Main Street. And I am in the San Francisco Bay Area. One word, I'll just say I'm a lawyer.
Don't hold that against her. No, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Chip, how about you?
Yeah, I'm Chip House. I have too many affiliations to mention. Most important is with the Alliance for Peace Building. I live in the outskirts of Washington, D.C., and the word to describe me, not surprisingly, is scattered.
I would have said connected, but Maya, are you ready?
I am, sure. I'm Maya Olmsted. I'm a founding member of Zebras Unite. I think in this crowd, I would just be considered a good old-fashioned average impact investor at the retail level. I would say that insatiably curious. Sorry, it's two words. That does describe me.
Thank you. Kevin?
Yeah, I'm Kevin Jones. I'm in Swarnamilla, North Carolina. We're oddly enough only the second white family on this land since 1837. My affiliations are one of the leaders of neighborhood economics, and I'm the co-founder of the Community Equity Fund, solving the friends and family gap for entrepreneurs who don't have a rich aunt or uncle. And my one word, I guess, is intrigued by this. Yeah.
Fantastic, Kevin. Thank you. Mark? Maybe Mark
Here.
stepped away.
Hi,
There.
yeah, there you go. So sorry, my camera's not working, but trying to get that fixed. I'm Mark Blumenthal. I'm Executive Director of the Social Ventures Foundation, which is focused on engaging post-secondary students in development of social ventures worldwide. And my one word is passionate.
Mark, we're thrilled to have you here. Darcy? Go ahead, Darcy.
Yeah, okay. I'm Darcy James. I'm physically in Boise, Idaho. Affiliated in various directions, and my word is activist.
Fantastic. I just want to reiterate that we have assembled today an extraordinarily impressive group of people. My goal has been to build a group of ordinary people, and somehow I've inadvertently assembled a group of extraordinary people, and I'm rather intimidated by that. So thank you all for being here. This is such a fun thing for me to do. I certainly wasn't bored looking for things to do, but I have not regretted an instant the time I've invested in rounding up friends to look at deals together. It's just been so fun. So today we have just a tiny bit of luxury because two of the deals that we had scheduled to look at got funded and closed. So you'll recall last month we looked at preliminarily three deals that we were going to look at in follow-up today: Cabinet Health, Solar for Us One, and We Solar. And Solar for Us One and We Solar both closed their rounds. I honestly, in fairness, I apologize. I probably should have anticipated that with Solar for Us One. They were pretty close to their funding limit when we were looking at that a month ago, and I probably should have anticipated that. But We Solar did close their round early. They had indicated an interest in raising much more money than they did, but they closed their round to further investment. So two of the deals that we planned to discuss today, we won't. So today we'll just look at Cabinet Health. And I apologize, I didn't write down who our reviewers were, but I think it's Chip and Darcy. Is that right? Or Maya? Chip and Maya.
Other order.
Maya and Chip?
Yeah.
Okay.
Expertise before satire.
Fantastic. Maya, do you want to go first with your report?
Sure, I
How
can.
much time do you need? I'll stick a timer on there. How much time do you think you need?
3 to 5 minutes max.
Okay, let's give you 4 minutes and 20 seconds.
Woo! Okay, no pressure. So I should preface my bias here. I think that we're looking at investments that should do one of three things. Number one, as individuals, they should match our own individual investment thesis. The second is that within the context of matching your investment thesis, you want to be investing in a reputable crowdfunding platform. There are multiple different platforms, so you want to check. And then you want to be investing in a company that is well run and that is capable of fulfilling the objectives that it's set out to do in term. So for me, my personal investment thesis means that I can't recommend this company. It is an eminently investable company, but the challenge for me is that I'm very focused around trying to empower pre-seed to very early seed stage companies. And this company is already at the seed level, having already raised $6.6 million. Now, the platform that it's located on, Republic, is a reputable platform. They're actually well regarded. Only about 3% of the companies that apply to Republic are accepted to raise on Republic. They have an extremely stringent due diligence process. The company itself has investors with quite a strong reputation, and it's well regarded on Crunchbase. So I've already done the due diligence by evaluating the financials as well as the team. The third challenge for me that I would say is that when you quote invest in this company, you're not actually gaining any equity. Because they've already taken on larger institutional investors, there's no real space for the individual crowdfunding investor to gain equity. And in fact, if you go through the paperwork, you're not actually getting equity. You're getting a discounted deal on their products. So it's much more like a Kickstarter campaign than it is an investment in the company. And I have a problem with that. I feel that the way that they've listed themselves on the platform is a bit disingenuous for the average crowdfunding investor. This would be a confusing proposition. And I'm available to answer any questions, but first let's punt it over to Chip and talk about his reactions as well.
Yeah, my reactions are essentially the same plus. So I initially wanted this to be a good and investable company as someone who takes a bunch of prescription medicines and recycles the plastic bottles. Having compostable envelopes made a lot more sense. And then I looked at it in detail and saw a lot of the same things that Maya did. But I should surface my bias because I'm also involved with the zebras, and maybe, if you can imagine, have an even bigger commitment to social change than she does. I am not interested in investing to make money for myself. I'm investing for social change, and this company, I would have liked them to do that, but they just don't seem to. And I had doubts about how they go from this stage where they're doing okay to the next stage where they're doing AI-based medical research. That's a huge leap, but I had convinced myself that I wouldn't personally invest before I got there. And then Maya and I talked yesterday, and I learned a lot about why I should not be giving advice on startups, because there's a lot I don't know. So enough for me.
I
That's certainly fair,
remain,
Chip, but
Thanks,
definitely
Maya.
a reciprocal conversation.
Thanks to both of you. I really want to reiterate the premise of Impact Cherubs, and you guys are all exceptional. But I think that the premise is investing is not beyond the intellectual capacity of any adult human, and that all of us have insights, all of us, every human has insights that others do not and can bring value to this discussion. And that's why I've tried to make this as egalitarian and open as possible. So I hope you never feel like you don't have something to contribute, because you're all exceptional and you do, but I hope we will also be welcoming and inclusive toward those who come with a more genuinely naive experience with respect to investing, because their insights will continue to be valuable. That said, what are your questions and thoughts for Maya and Chip?
Just one, I totally agree with Maya about her sort of observation about what I'll call a bait and switch in terms of not really giving out equity on that crowdfunding side. I think that's disingenuous, and I think she made the right call on that one.
Yeah, it's pretty shocking, frankly. I hadn't conceived that level of incongruity would even be possible on one of the sites. So I'm disappointed to see that be the case. Any other thoughts? Questions?
Is this Cabinet Health? I'm sorry.
Cabinet Health, yeah.
Yes, this is Cabinet Health.
They're not offering a crowd safe.
The amount of influence that you would have in what most people would consider equity is so infinitesimally, is that the right word? Infinitesimally? Can't get that one out. It's so tiny, it might as well not exist. And
Isn't that what everyone on Republic offers, though? Like, that's my big problem with Republic, is these stupid crowd saves. Like, it seems like that's all they offer on Republic.
To be honest, I'm not experienced enough in crowd funding to know what their general practices are. I know that they're very well respected in general. I mean, I had a chance to do that due diligence this week to understand the platform, because I hadn't come across it yet. But what I know to be true in this particular case is that this raise is such a tiny amount compared to the last raise. And given that they're not intending to downgrade the price of shares or the value of the company or anything like that, it's not a practical use of this platform, other than perhaps trying to generate awareness of the company. And I suspect that that's probably the strategy here, is that they're just trying to get additional publicity and using it in that regard, because the fees are not upfront fees. You only pay for the fees after you've raised money. So there's no loss for them to put their name out there. And certainly, for an example, I didn't know anything about Cabinet Health until this event. So they've certainly raised the awareness for other people. And it looks like a solid company, and it looks like they have solid backers. The people who are involved in it include the Global Good Fund. So I think that it has potential. I just don't think that for a crowdfunding opportunity, it's the right match for the average crowdfunder, the average investor on a crowdfunding.
And Devin, I think that raises a question for this group to think about, and that is, to be precise, there seem to be a gazillion of these platforms on which companies can list themselves. I mean, I found 4 or 5, only one of which seems to be purely social change oriented. But until I talked to Maya, I had no sense of the criteria that separates one from another. And so a dive into these platforms might be a useful thing to do at some point, and I'd be glad to think about helping on that, but that's not my expertise.
Yeah, thank you. We should do some work on that. There are 67 platforms currently operating. So there are a lot. And I for one have not visited all of them.
And I think
Darcy?
Darcy and Christopher both had questions too. I saw. Yep.
Right. Mine is built right on this. Is Republic billed as a social impact crowdfunding? Or is it just a general
I
crowdfunding
interviewed
with a fiduciary responsible to make money?
I interviewed the founder a few years ago, and we talked about that, he and I. And he certainly sees social impact as an important part of what they do. And so he created a variety of tags so that when you're looking at deals on Republic, you can see social impact, you can see, minority founders, women owners, that kind of thing. That said, as I peruse the deals on the site, it's thinner than, say, Republic, and of course all the deals on Jenny's site kind of go that way. So it's not thick with impact as a focus. Chris, did you have some observations or comment or question?
I think the horse is dead and we probably don't need to beat it anymore, but I also found it disingenuous that the Republic would have, there are investment crowdfunding. This is language that Jenny and I use to describe this, investment crowdfunding sites on which you can find debt or equity positions. And there are sites where it is rewards based, and those are pretty clearly delineated. So it's a little bit surprising to find one on an investment crowdfunding site that really isn't offering a financial return on investments.
Yeah.
The other piece I just wanted to alert in general, as we're doing further due diligence, is that there's an inconsistency in their messaging about their leadership. On Republic, they emphasize leaders that they don't emphasize on Crunchbase, which I find also a bit problematic. So I would encourage future due diligence teams to consider using Crunchbase as part of their due diligence process.
Great tip, Maya. Thank you very, very much. Well, I've posted the vote to bring this matter to a conclusion. Again, I want to reiterate that the nature of this process is I'd really encourage you all to vote. You don't have to, but I'd encourage you to. You're all entitled to a vote. And your judgment is as good as the next person's. And because I want to focus our work on investing $100, and for those for whom their wealth is such that a bigger investment feels like $100, great. This is not adequate due diligence for deploying a lot of money, whatever that may mean to you. But it probably is adequate due diligence for what $100 would be for me. And I'm not particularly wealthy. I recognize I'm very fortunate compared to a lot of our friends. Kevin and I've been working with some folks in Africa the last couple of weeks together. And, it's been a reminder that compared to some, I'm very fortunate.
Maya, I have a question to you. What do you see as the difference in the leadership of Crunchbase to where they are? Are they claiming more diversity somewhere else, or what are they doing?
They're claiming more diversity on their own website as well as in Republic, and on Crunchbase, they only emphasize 3 male leaders. That's it. They don't mention women at all.
Huh.
Interesting. So we were unanimous today on voting no. So I think we're done.
Devin, I don't want to interrupt you, but I do want to say that I appreciated going through this exercise. I got a chance to learn just as much in this process of understanding where my line in the sand is as I would have in learning about a company that I would have wanted to invest in. So I do hear the call to reevaluate the platforms, but perhaps this is an organic way of evaluating the platforms as well.
Sure. That's a good point. I'm excited. Maya last month, did our education moment, and it was kind of an important milestone because up to that point, I'd done all the education, not wanting to burden others. And Maya inspired me to get brave. And I asked Jenny if she would do it this time. And of course, Jenny is, I love this phrase. I don't know why I love this phrase so much, but I love to say Jenny is a Yale trained lawyer. She's phenomenally wise. We are very fortunate to have Jenny, and she's agreed to walk us through how to find and use a Form C. And maybe she'd take a step back for those of us who don't know and explain what a Form C is.
But before she does, Devin, unlike your governor, who is a Yale-trained undergraduate and Harvard Law School grad, so Jenny is clearly superior.
Yes.
He is. Oh my God.
Oh well.
Yeah, we have some bad people from those schools. Cool. Yeah. So it's amazing. Okay, so the Form C, just to take a step back, not everyone may know this, but it's the thing that is required by the Securities and Exchange Commission that you complete when you do an investment crowdfunding campaign. And it is kind of amazing to me how hard they are to find on these platforms. I would guess probably 99% of people who invest in crowdfunding campaigns never look at the Form C, which is problematic because it contains absolutely everything that is required to be disclosed under the law. So I've been when judging platforms, I think one thing to judge them by is how hard they make it to find the Form C, because I think it's somewhat unethical to kind of hide it and make it difficult to find, because really it should be front and center. So are there any questions about the Form C at all? And I was thinking once we get any questions out of the way, I could share my screen and show you some examples.
I have no idea what a Form C is other than.
Nor do
what
I.
you
So
said.
I'm really glad we're doing this.
Yeah.
And I want to see one.
Okay. Well, the SEC is so crazy because the thing they call a Form C kind of isn't really a form, but I'll show you what it looks like and where you can find it. And I would say you should really never invest on a crowdfunding platform without looking at the Form C. I mean, everything else on the page is pretty much hype and bluster. I mean, of course they can't lie, but it's not the meat of the disclosures that are legally required. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with something that you all were considering investing in, I believe, Trella.
Mm-hmm.
I think you voted to invest.
Yeah, we did.
Okay. So here's the campaign page. There's all kinds of stuff here. Do you ever wonder, like, what am I investing in? Okay, it says it's a convertible note. That's good to know. But like, what exactly am I getting? So I challenge just about anyone to find the Form C on this page. I finally figured out where they hide it. It took me a long time. So what you do is you go to the details tab, and then you scroll all the way down. And down here it says Form C filing on Edgar. The Securities and Exchange Commission hosts the official Form C on their Edgar website. You know, it's like, no one would even know what the hell that means. It would never occur to anyone to look at that. So, okay, so let's look. So this is the Form C. Can you all see this craziness?
Yeah, it's intimidating.
And
Yeah.
the size is the PDF size, not the amount of dollars.
Right. And what really pisses me off, I won't make it a secret. I'm not the biggest fan of WeFunder. Okay. So, because I feel like they do a lot of things. They cut a lot of corners. They've just gotten fined $1.3 million for, or was it? No, it was 1 million. I can't remember. Anyway, for kind of cutting a lot of corners. And this is an example of how they do that. So if you wanted to share disclosure documents, wouldn't it occur to you to give them names so you would know what they are instead of document 1, 2, 3, 4? You have no idea what these things are. So you have to click on each one and see what each one is. And that's, unfortunately, that's kind of the way that, so here, okay, so this is the Form C, but this isn't actually the Form C. This is the template that WeFunder creates to put together some of the information that's required in the Form C. So that there really isn't such a thing as an actual Form C. The Form C is really just a series of disclosures. But so this is what they call the Form C. But then there's all these other documents. And so, why don't they call it, Form C summary or something? Okay, document 2, what is this? Okay, this is just a picture of their page because that is required to be submitted. Document 3. And you really do have to look at all these. Okay, so this is interesting. What is this? Does anyone know what this is?
Yeah.
Does this look familiar to anyone?
This is just the description of the special purpose vehicle that's allowing them to put everyone's name from the crowdfunding campaign into one conglomerate.
Exactly. Did you know? Did anyone know that this is the agreement you're signing when you invest in Trella Technologies, that you're not actually investing directly in Trella Technologies, you're investing in this thing called WeFunder SPV, which is a Delaware, it's a series LLC. Most people don't even realize that when they're making an investment. This document governs your investment. So it's a good idea to read it. Anyway, I won't go through all of these, but this is how you find the Form C and you read everything. Okay, this is the promissory note purchase agreement. So yeah, these are the legal documents that govern your investment.
So your equity is not really in the company?
Well, in this case, it's actually a convertible note.
Right.
But usually almost every investment on WeFunder and the big platforms, they're now using these SPVs.
Mm-hmm.
And the SPVs tend to be series LLCs under Delaware law. And so what you're getting is an ownership interest in an LLC, and the LLC owns the convertible note. So this basically means that there's a lot of issues with that. I mean, this basically means that you're probably going to get a K1 because you own equity in this LLC, a K1 form, which is going to be a hassle for you to deal with because, maybe you've only invested $100. Also, series LLCs are not recognized under all state laws. So there's some potential issues there that every single investment on the WeFunder platform goes into this one big LLC. And it's possible that if one of them fails, it could take all the other ones down. Anyway, so this is how you find the Form C on WeFunder. And then I'm going to share it on Republic. And I will say Republic is much better in terms of disclosure. Let's see, let me find that one. Republic is, I'd say, a relatively more ethical company in many ways. Of course, everything's relative, because they're more transparent. So yeah, let me find that. So it was Cabinet Health. Yeah, that was the one you were just looking at. Okay.
Yeah.
So this one, you'll notice on Republic, it's much easier to find the Form C. Where is it? Here it is, it's right there.
Of course, you have to know to look for it, which we didn't.
Exactly. And then you'll also notice that these things are better labeled. So let's see, the offering statement. Here's the Form C, form type C, offering statement. Oh, this is just the form. See, this is the actual Form C, which doesn't have a lot of useful information. Where are the attachments? Form C. filings. Off statement, huh? And then there's amendments. Do the amendments have the attachments? No, huh? It's interesting. I don't see any of the attachments that are supposed to be in there. So this one, I honestly can't even help out with this one. I don't know. Huh? I don't see any attachments in this one.
So Jenny, I spent a lot of time looking at tax form 990s from nonprofits. This sounds a whole hell of a lot more complicated.
Well, a 990 is a very different animal because that's an IRS form.
But it tells me something.
Yeah, the Form C is it's an SEC form, so it's quite different. And of course, when you're dealing with the SEC, you're dealing with this thing called Edgar. And Edgar is this incredibly outdated and complicated filing system. And that's why it's when you go there and you look at these things, you're like, what the heck is this? It's so, Edgar is a nightmare. So, and that's where you file the Form C. So I'm actually not sure why I'm having trouble finding all the attachments to the Form C when I'm going here, but
Excuse me, Jen, I have dealt with a couple of Form Cs, and they those seem to be using that blank form that you just showed us, and they had filled in the spots that were relevant to their operation. So I'm wondering if hidden back there in that form, there might be the small answers, the little like 2 digits about what is the answer to that. And then when it's not relevant to their operation, it isn't showing.
well, that form that oh, sorry, go ahead.
Again, the one you showed us on your screen. Yeah. Did it
Yeah.
have some slots filled in? Nothing.
Yeah, so that form that we looked at, that form only has some very, very basic information. It doesn't have all the details. The way the details are provided is through attachments. When we do it for our clients, we make sure that every attachment has a name so that when you look at that list of attachments, you can find everything you need. Let me see if I can find an example. Barrett Kohler. Let me see. I may embarrass myself because I'm gonna look at this in real time and see if I can find it done better on Crowdfund Main Street. So this was the Barrett Kohler.
Oh, what a wonderful company.
Yeah.
Yes. Let's see if we can find the Form C on here. Form C. Okay, preview Form C. Okay, so here you can see this is how you do a little bit of a better job on this. So you can see it's all laid out. What is each thing? You can find out what is every single thing. It's not a mystery. Oh, the investor deck. Okay. And we named each document a name that you would know what it is. So that's an example of how I believe it should be done. Unfortunately, that is not always the case. So, all right. So
Fiona
that's
had a question,
a little
and then we
mini
need to wrap
lesson on
up.
Form C. Yeah.
Jenny, how long should it take for Form C to be filed or issued? Because the last startup that I researched, they kept on saying on the WeFunder site, and investors were asking, saying, when is it going to, they said it's in process, still happening, but it seemed like they'd been saying that for about 9 months or so. How long should it take for it to be?
Well, you cannot start raising under regulation crowdfunding unless your Form C is filed and accepted by the Edgar system. But it's very confusing because some of the platforms will put testing the waters offerings up where they're not actually raising yet, but they don't always make it clear that they're really not raising yet. And so that might be what you were seeing, is that someone wasn't raising yet, but they were testing the waters, and that's why their Form C wasn't available. That's the only thing I can think of, because if your Form C is not filed and available, you cannot be raising money under regulation crowdfund.
Yeah, I'll double
and-
check, but I
Thanks,
think they were raising. I think that's why investors were asking, when's it
Yeah.
coming through?
Yeah.
And can you drop your URL in the chat?
Which one, the one for that campaign or that website?
The one for Barrett Kohler, yeah.
Yeah, and it is, unfortunately, it is closed, so you cannot
Right. I just want to
invest.
see how, yeah. Right, thank you.
Want to see the gold standard.
Yes.
We do need to move forward. Jenny, thank you so much for that. I know this is intimidating at some level, and obviously you all make your decisions about what level of risk and what level of administrative burden you're willing to tackle. That's for you to decide, but I do hope you won't be too discouraged by the challenges involved, because the opportunities for us to continue to invest in change are still there. And I don't want the frictions involved to discourage us too much. But Jenny, I'm incredibly grateful that you would take the time to be here and educate us on this stuff. That was so helpful. We've got 3 new deals that we want to look at this month. And let me share my screen here, and we'll jump to watching some videos and finding if there are any volunteers for doing further diligence on these for next month. The first one is Sober Sidekick. And I really was not excited about this one until I watched the video. And then I thought, oh, this might be worthwhile. And ultimately, I looked, before I choose, by the way, I looked at probably 20 deals to pick the 3 that we'll look at today. I don't pick the first 3 I find. So here's the video for this one.
My name is Chris Thompson. I'm the co-founder of Sober Sidekick, where we are going to launch the most epic wave of real-life comeback stories the world has ever seen. Now that's a bold statement, and you might not believe me, but you also might not believe the fact that I woke up on Thanksgiving Day 2018 in hospital pants and a poncho, shaking with delirium tremens, hallucinating, feeling like I had no shot at life, and all I could think about was how to end it. Well, that was the day I launched my own comeback story. And after I launched my own comeback story, I asked myself, how can we use technology to leverage millions of epic comeback stories? Because I am no different than the 22 million Americans who chronically battle addiction. And in this world we live in, 6 out of 7 will never get help. And not only are we facing deaths of overdoses every day, but we can't even account for the countless lives that were never lived and the families who suffered along with them. Now at Sober Sidekick, we recognize that the opposite of addiction is connection. And in order for people to launch their comeback story, they first need to feel safe in their vulnerability. So we built an algorithm that optimizes this entire process, where people get help when they need it most. And it's not just sometimes, it's every time. We leverage community and technology, and we optimize it for behavioral change. And since we've launched, not a single member has ever written a post on Sober Sidekick and not received support from at least one other member. In fact, we've optimized it and gamified empathy to the point where for every member who posts, 6.8 members will respond in support, motivation, advice. So effective, members claim it saved their life. Because if I'm thinking about quitting at 3 a.m. in the morning and I post on Sober Sidekick, odds are by 3:05, 5 or 6 people have already given me reasons to keep going. And by helping people help people, we've been able to go from 0 to 100,000 members with no cash, no outside capital. I built the MVP in a garage of a sober living, and I surrounded myself with a team of people who are passionate, who care, who've been there. Now, When it comes to addiction, we view this as the most impactful and urgent place to start. But we don't see why we can't leverage community and behavioral reinforcement to launch comeback stories in every space, in every demographic who suffers. We don't see why there can't be millions, in fact, 1 billion epic real-life comeback stories through community reinforcement, peer-to-peer engagement, and human-to-human connection. Thank you so much for your time today.
So we don't have to do diligence on these. We can reject them at this point, but generally what our practice has been is if someone will volunteer to do some due diligence, we'll consider it at the next meeting. If anyone is willing to do that work, we're glad to accept it. So any volunteers to look at this one? Kevin.
Yeah.
Kevin and Chip volunteered. Do you two want to work together on this one?
Sure.
No, I'll do it and I'll tell them what to do.
Okay.
Sorry, that was a joke.
Yeah, as a person in a bizarre form of recovery myself, I'm skeptical of any approach because the success rates of all of them, including 12-step programs, is pitifully small. So I'm not willing to be a lead, but I'm willing to have Kevin tell me what to do. Brilliant.
No, that's not really my goal.
I really do appreciate your willingness to take a look at that one. So
yeah, I'm interested. I've sat in on a lot of metal chairs in church basements in that, so I'm interested.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you very, very much. Okay, so I'm going to go to the next deal here, and we'll take a quick look. This is the program is called Rialto. It's done by a company called Minwo. I kind of think, although I didn't read it anywhere, that Minwo stands for minority women, but take a look at this and see what you think.
If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. An African proverb that underscores the importance of the collective, of community. Some of the most notable tech companies we have today were started by a few individuals that came together in community to build something great, creating an ecosystem with economic value so significant it will span generations to come. My question when starting my company was, how can I recreate this within the Black business ecosystem? I'm Melanie Akule, founder and CEO at Minwo, and our mission is to create generational wealth within the Black community through scaling Black-owned businesses. We're backed by Techstars, Cox, and others as we embark on this important mission. Statistics show that Black-owned businesses still suffer from the systemic barriers that prevent sustainable growth. And while there are amazing efforts being made to fix these issues, it's happening in silos. In essence, we lack the ecosystem cohesion we need to start, build, and scale our businesses systemically. Enter Rialto. Rialto is the community as a service platform that brings together key players in the Black business ecosystem to work together more effectively by leveraging AI. It is the digital platform that powers the individuals that are creating communities to drive Black business forward. Our customers are programs and organizations that prioritize Black business development, including Collab Capital, CVM Worldwide, and GoProxy. They have a community of businesses that they work with to connect to resources, experts, and each other. Rialto simply gives them superpowers to increase engagement within their communities with less effort. With built-in features like resource libraries that make it easier for community members to find valuable content and office hours that enable them to connect with the experts in your network, Rialto removes the logistical bottleneck that comes with managing digital communities. We charge the host organization an annual fee for each community space that's based on membership, size, but still encourages growth. McKinsey reports that the Black business equity gap is a $290 billion market, so we're starting here at home. However, these issues that Black founders face in the US are similar to those faced in Africa, the Caribbean, and Europe, creating a global opportunity. My team reflects the communities we serve and have a diverse set of skills and expertise to tackle this space, including product management, marketing, data science, and cybersecurity. My background is in both business and technology, as I have an MBA from UC Berkeley and built data science-based software as a senior technical product manager at General Electric. Our team of advisors represent PayPal, Amazon Technologists of Color, and Goody Nation. We're going further together, and I encourage you to join us. Thank you.
All righty. Again, the only question is there a volunteer to take a look at this one? Anyone have an interest in this one enough to want to look at it? I don't hope I didn't miss it, but I'm not seeing a volunteer. I don't think we need to feel an obligation to look at every deal. But I'm feeling like there's not a volunteer. So we will not look at this one next month. Okay. Okay. And let me share my screen for the last company that we'll look at this week. Now, this is going to look a little bit familiar to some of our regulars, but this is a competitor to one of the companies we already voted to invest in. Let me just preface that by saying we're such small investors that I think a portfolio approach encourages rather than discourages us from investing in two deals that are directly competitive because obviously our small investments are not going to yield us board seats or other places where the conflict would be problematic. So again, we'll decide after we watch this if anybody wants to do the diligence on this, but I think we're not conflicted out.
A major missing piece in the renewable energy industry is ocean energy, and Laminar Scientific is bringing forward revolutionary technologies to make ocean energy feasible. Folks, the planet needs your attention to green energy solutions. Although wind and solar were pivotal in the renewable energy industry, there are still major gaps that need to be solved to ditch fossil fuels. So let us take a quick look at some generic systems here, comparing wind, solar, and wave. The first gap is a lack of energy density, which means you need massive systems to harness wind energy and a lot of land to harness solar energy. Wave energy, though, is extremely dense. You don't need as big of a system for viable amounts of energy. The second major gap is the unpredictability and large variation of energy available in wind and solar. Wave energy is more levelized from the day-to-day and very easy to predict. So you might be wondering, why don't we see wave energy proliferate like wind and solar? So let me discuss some barriers to entry in this business before I explain why Laminar breaks those barriers. The first barrier is the chaotic multidirectionality of the ocean environment, which makes it more difficult to extract energy, whereas other forms of energy like wind are unidirectional and simple. Next is the complexity and cost of maintenance. You can see in this video a rather extreme case. The final barrier I would like to discuss is biofouling and corrosion due to seawater, which starts to deteriorate your system pretty fast. Now let me introduce how our systems tackle these different barriers. For the first barrier, we've invented world-class magnetic motion rectifiers. These are special gearboxes that convert multi-directional motion to unidirectional motion. So we invented this cool device that turns bidirectional motion to unidirectional motion. So what that means is, whichever direction you spin this master gear, the other gears turn it into unidirectional motion. As you can see, it's converted to one direction, and this is a lot more optimal and smooth for a generator to use. What you just saw here is a partially magnetic motion rectifier that has the least number of physically interacting parts that anything invented in the past for this functionality. Our newer invention is a purely magnetic motion rectifier that has no physically interacting parts. An effective motion rectifier used to be a pipe dream in the industry, and now we believe it's becoming a reality. Wave tank testing of our rectifier demonstrated approximately a 2-fold increase in energy output compared to an unrectified system. And this was especially true in high-frequency waves. Our go-to-market product is a near-shore solution where high-frequency waves commonly occur. So let's get back to our go-to-market product. go-to-market product is a near-shore solution that is designed to be easily installable with a deadweight anchor. The nearshore buoy is optimized for vertical heave motion, while those yellow flaps that you can see provide area for horizontal force capture, or surge. The system is therefore optimized to capture the natural orbital fluid motion. And of course, our world-class motion rectifier. You might notice that it's in a different configuration here. That's because our method patent protects over 100 different variations of the magnetic methods. A computer-controlled transmission then adjusts the input into the generator. Now let me talk about our new idea. It involves having multiple generators coupled to one motion source. And couplers allow for these generators to be coupled and decoupled individually to that motion source. That means that during calm seas, smaller generators that are of course more efficient during lower energy conditions can be coupled, whereas larger generators can be decoupled. And during energetic seas, larger generators can be coupled. This system allows a great level of adjustability to different sea states, which improves the motion as well as the efficiency. If any of the generators fails, it can be decoupled and other generators can be coupled in order to compensate for it. Power can then be transported via sea cable. During maintenance mode, a vessel can arrive to block waves hitting the wave energy converter. Then brakes can be triggered to further arrest the motion of the buoy. And then maintenance can commence. Folks, Lamina Scientific is really breaking the barriers in ocean energy. If you invest in us, you're helping us combat climate change.
All right, so that's our third opportunity. Fiona, are you volunteering? Your hand is already up. Well, that
Yes.
answers that question. Does anybody want to partner with Fiona on that diligence?
Yeah, I'd be glad to, because this one seems a lot more promising than the other one, though I don't remember it terribly well. I mean, it's just more fun.
Okay,
I'm going to interject
Solar
something.
power.
Mark, go
Yeah,
ahead.
I'm going to interject something as a saltwater sailor who's done a lot of blue water sailing. I can see some real problems here. They have not looked at sea states of 20, 30, or 40-foot waves that would easily rip apart any of those types of tethers they have underwater. In addition, I'm very concerned about the cable that's going to be going to land. So initially here, I'm looking at something that I think is just not it's just not going to be something that's going to have a long life to it. But that's just my 2 cents. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. I appreciate that. And Chip and Fiona, when you look at that, you may want to bounce your ideas off Mark before the next meeting, if that makes sense to you. But we're running out of time here, but I noted there was a robust discussion in the chat. Did we air all our concerns there sufficiently, or do we need to talk about that before we adjourn? Okay, I'm going to take that silence as a sign that we have sufficiently covered that. I am really extraordinarily grateful to all of you for taking the time to do this. I don't want any of you to feel pressure to do this, but I would invite you to think about people you could invite to join the Cherubs. The ordinarier, the better. Not that we don't want more extraordinary people, but we really intended for this to be just the coming together of ordinary people to talk about how we might invest our $100 this month. And I'm grateful that some of you are here with ability to do more than that and with great wisdom and experience. But if we layer your vast knowledge on top of a wider group, we can do more good while we all continue to invest relatively modest amounts and spend modest amounts of time that I hope we enjoy with each other in this process. So anyway, I invite you to consider that. We'll be in touch before our next meeting. I previously sent out a little bit of communication about this, but I'll just call your attention to it. I've got to go to Puerto Rico at our usual time next month on an assignment. And so I did push our meeting next month to the 4th Tuesday in August, and we'll return to the 3rd Tuesday the following month. So it'll be right after Super Crowd 22 in September.
Are you
I
going
will
to
be
connect with people?
semi-comatose.
So I don't have the contact info of whoever signed up to look at the mobile addiction app.
Oh, okay. Wasn't that Chip that agreed to do
Yeah,
that?
but
Yeah.
Devin, if you could send out everyone's contact info and the links to the sites that you stole the videos from, that would be helpful.
Yes. So
Yeah.
Chip and Kevin on Sober, and Chip and Fiona on Waves. Okay, I'll get that out to you. Thanks, everybody. You guys have a great day, great week, and we'll see you next
Nice to
month.
see you all.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm glad to
Bye.
have this group. I know nothing. So there you go. Thanks.
Thank you.